sorry, it's the fourth tutorial in terms of Tinkercad, but it's the first tutorial in terms of CODEBLOCKS, which is part of Tinkercad and works on basically a similar system to Scratch and to microbits in terms of you have code blocks of code, and you drag them into an area, into a programming window, and you can create various things. So it looks very much like Scratch in terms of you've got three screen elements. But the beauty of it is you drag some code, but the code refers to objects that you find in Tinkercad, such as the shapes here. But within that, you can resize the shapes, you can move the shapes around. You could argue, for those who maybe aren't in Year 7, it's very similar to JavaScript in a way, in terms of it all works on coordinates this time. All of it's coordinate based. So if I press, just drop the speed down. So I've created a little a table and a table with a centerpiece in the middle, a big flower in the middle of the table. So if I press play, it starts by drawing the legs, tabletop, and we get the flower for the top of that, and that's working through. Basically, I've used virtually, for this first tutorial, all the same. There's maybe 3 different blocks I've actually used, and 3 different shapes, 4 different shapes. So we're going to have a little go at this and see how we get on. Okay, so yeah, code block table. I'm just going to create a new code block. So create new design, and we're going to have a little go at creating this table. So first of all, I'm going to start by drawing the legs, not onto the canvas. I'm just about to, but onto this this work area here. Okay, just going to bring everything in, move everything in a little bit. We have a cylinder. Yeah, at the moment it's orange, and if I move that across, you've got all the commands that go with the cylinder. Now I don't need these end two, so I'm just going to bring that back in a little bit. But at the moment, if I press play on that, it draws a cylinder, and it draws it the exact center of it sits on where the X, Y, and Z axes cross. So the middle of this cylinder is, so half of it is under the work plane, as you can see, and half of it is on top of the work plane. It's cutting exactly through the center of it. Yeah. So we need to move that. We need to resize it so it's so it makes a little bit more sense. So I'm just going to reduce the size of these legs to a smaller radius. I'll try 5. Yeah, sounds about right. But the height isn't. Maybe 30, 40. Let's go 40. Okay, seems okay, but it needs to be, I want it to be sat on top of the work plane, so treat the work plane as almost like a floor or a carpet. Now in order to do this, I've got, all these are color coded, all my blocks, and as you see, there's nowhere near as many as there are in Scratch. I'm going to click on modify, and I'm going to move. Okay, I'm going to move it up, and what you've got to remember is what these axes represent, and the blue one, the up and down one, is the Z axis. So if I've drawn this at 40, it should be 20 above and 20 below the work plane. So if I put in 20 in here, like so, it moves it up, and now it should be sat on the floor. Okay, I'm going to create another cylinder, and in fact I'm going to create 4 cylinders for each one of the legs. So I can do that one of 2 ways. I can either go back to cylinder and drag it in, click it to it, and adjust all this again. But what might be an easier way of doing it, if I drag that to the dustbin, is if I click on this first block and I duplicate, it then grabs them both and I can pop that underneath. Now at the moment it will draw each one on top. If I grab this one again and duplicate again, I'm right clicking by the way, right click duplicate. So now I've got 4 legs, but they're all in the same place. I've got to work out on my grid where they are going to appear. So let's just rotate that around so you can see. I've got my X and Y coordinate, okay, on there. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to adjust this one. I'm going to move this point to 30 and see what happens. Okay, so let's move that way. So if I move one that way, and maybe move another one back this way, let's move this next one 30. In fact, no, let's move that one minus 30. So 30 and 30. So let's see what happens now. There should be, 2 should remain in the middle. Okay. So I'm spacing them out, but I want to bring these 2 down, and I want to bring these repeat this going across. So in fact, if I do this, 30 there and minus 30 there, okay, that moves them all 1, 2, 1, 2. But now I want to go up, so I'm going to use the y-axis for this one, and I'm going to move this one down on the y-axis. I'm going to move this one up on the y-axis. So let's see what happens now. Okay, so these last 2 need to come down as well. So now if I have 2 negatives, minus 30. So I've got minus 30, minus 30, positive 30, positive 30, minus 30, plus 30, plus 30, minus 30. That should give us 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 legs. Let's look at this. Yeah, I've got myself 4 table legs, like so. Now I want to drag a box for the tabletop. Just grab this, come on. Click. Good. It makes a little popping noise when you've clicked it. This has got to be quite big because at the moment I think it'll just do a little box. Sat in the middle, 90 by 90. So this is going to be a square table. It's got to be, the depth of it's got to be fairly narrow, I would have thought. 5, and then that might give us a tabletop. 2. Yeah. If I press this on speed, it draws it really quickly. So I'll leave it on that for now, just rather than not waste time. Modify. Where does this need to move to? Well, it's going to move just on the z-axis. Okay. The leg heights are 40. So realistically, if I move this 40, it should put it on top, like so. Okay, so that basically is a tabletop. Now I'm just going to show you this one other thing. I did mention, I did show an example with a vase, but what I want you to do is I want you to have a little go yourself about maybe making a centerpiece, or even some placemats, or maybe even some chairs along the bottom. But one thing I would like to mention is the rotate. So I did a flower. I took a star, like so, and pop that. Okay, and then I can do all sorts of things. I can make the star, let's have it 12 petals, 512, but 12 petals. I'll make it, bring this in a little bit so you can see, because there's quite a lot to the star. The inner radius and the outer radius. But side's 12, radius, let's set that to 10. And let us, first of all, rotate it. So So I'm going to rotate it on the x-axis, 90 degrees. And then I'm going to move it. And I'll just have it floating above the table for now. So I'm going to set it to about 60. Okay, so it rotates it, sets it to 60, so I should draw a star and it should appear at the top of the table somewhere. And there we go. Okay, so that's ready to be to have a vase and and maybe a stalk put on it. But that is basically what I want you to create with, as I say, maybe a centerpiece, table mats, chairs. It's entirely up to you. Okay, this is lesson 1 of code blocks in Tinkercad. Just remember to change the name to something that makes sense. Okay, click on the icon to ensure you save it.